1, 2, 3, Batman!
Batman!
Huh?
Oh, no.
Oh, man, I'm just trying to end up in that movie. I really want to be in that movie.
All right, here we go.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie, James Gunn, David Corenswet, both teasing the next big Superman movie and what it's going to be instead of just a straight-up Superman 2 type of sequel in the Christopher Reeve era, like Superman 2, Superman 3, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. There are a lot of theories about what was going on, but then he clarified some of his statements, and they released this clip, which basically tells you, without releasing an actual trailer before the movie's actually made, like a trailer before the trailer for one of the big characters like Superman, Supergirl, and Brainiac on it. So now everybody is wondering if this is confirmation that Brainiac is going to be the main villain of this next big Superman movie. James Gunn literally talking about a big super family team-up and using Brainiac alongside them in the artwork. Just seems like a really easy slam dunk.
As a kid, I was really attracted especially to the Superman family comics, you know, with Superman and Supergirl and Krypto and the whole gang.
And the way that James Gunn is talking about it, it's more of a super family team-up movie with all of them together. So it does sound like it'll be Supergirl and Superman teaming up against Brainiac, which is one of the big theories when they announced that it was going to be a big crossover movie instead of just a straight-up sequel. There's a bunch to unpack here because he also talks a lot about Batman and being in Batman Brave and the Bold. People are wondering, is he talking about Batman 2 with Robert Pattinson, or are they talking about Batman Brave and the Bold? We will dig into that later in the video too.
See you for the next one.
But one of the funny things is that when they actually filmed this behind-the-scenes featurette where they're actually talking about the next big movie, like David Corenswet's talking about, see you in the next one, see you in the Batman movie, James Gunn is talking about doing the Super Family team-up movie with Superman in it. They actually filmed most of this stuff back when they were actually filming the Superman movie because this is all on the sets for the Superman movie. They used it in some of the early trailers, not all the early trailers, but there are a couple of scenes that look familiar to those early trailers. So it actually means that James Gunn was planning on doing this super family team-up movie, possibly using Brainiac as the villain, many, many months ago. Like, this wasn't a recent thing. He actually explained that when he was writing the Superman movie, originally Brainiac was going to be one of the main villains, if not the main villain. It sounds like at a certain point he just felt like the movie got too big and decided to refocus on Lex Luthor as the actual main villain of the movie because he had all this stuff with Ultraman going on and all this stuff with the Justice Gang. So there's just too much stuff to juggle to also then try to do Brainiac's origin story and include all that stuff. When Henry Cavill was still Superman and they were still planning on doing Man of Steel 2, Brainiac was supposed to be the main villain of that for a while, but there were a couple different versions and a couple different directors that came onto the project that had different pitches for different types of stories. So it just sounds like a lot of different directors, James Gunn, Zack Snyder, other directors, have had ideas for using Brainiac as a big movie villain for Superman, but various things along the way came along to prevent that from happening, particularly in Henry Cavill's case. And now we just come to James Gunn trying to do his version of that. One of the other big reasons to use Brainiac as a team-up villain for Superman and Supergirl is because he's such a big part of her origin story as well, too. A lot of you play the Injustice 2 game. He's literally the intro to that game, with her actually being on Krypton when Brainiac comes to try and bottle it up and take it. So it's a little bit different because she's from Argo City in the comics, and she's going to be from Argo City in the movies, but you kind of get the idea. Brainiac has a long history with Kryptonians, and Supergirl knows all about him, whereas Superman does not, because his pod came to Earth before all that was going down. There have been a lot of different reboots of DC's continuity in their backstories for a lot of the characters, particularly for Brainiac, but the big story that people mostly point to when they talk about Superman versus Brainiac is Superman, Brainiac, and the new Krypton story, which could actually pay off some of the things that happened during the first Superman movie in the reason why Lex Luthor was trying to turn the world against Superman, because he was so worried about Superman's message from Jor-El and Lara about taking over the planet, creating a new Krypton on Earth. All those jokes about the super harem. James Gunn also revealed that the message from Jor-El was authentic. Lex Luthor didn't doctor it in any way. He said all the things that he says in the message when they broadcast it around the world. The idea is that Superman was wrestling with his legacy in the movie. He thought that he was an angel as a little kid, like, oh, I'm an angel come to Earth to help everyone, when really he finds out later in the movie that technically he was more like a demon come to Earth. This is actually the reason why the movie was initially titled Superman Legacy, because Superman was wrestling with his legacy during the movie. There are a lot of questions that they were going to follow up on that plot, like are they going to do any of the Mr. Oz storyline? Will Jor-El actually be more of a villain in this DCU of James Gunn's as it develops? But the way that James Gunn talked about it is Superman actually reckoned with the message as fully as you could reckon with it by the end of this first Superman movie. So it doesn't actually sound like the sequel movie is going to dig too much deeper into him thinking about the message itself, but some of the consequences of the message can still continue to manifest in different ways in the story.
Lulling us into complacency so he can dominate without resistance.
Can't say I'm surprised, Clevis. It's guys like this, they always got a whole bunch of dark, ugly secrets.
There have been live-action versions of Brainiac before, like they did a version on Smallville with James Marsters. It was a little more lo-fi, just they didn't have the budget for special effects like they do in present day. They wound up doing a much bigger version with better special effects by the time they got to the Krypton series on Sci-Fi. But that was set in the past, so they were sort of lining things up for a time travel type of story, changing the future, explaining why it was different from, say, like the Henry Cavill Man of Steel movies, but they were still using his emblem. So they were trying to say that this was happening in the history of Henry Cavill's Superman DCEU. Based on the actual timeline for when they could get this movie out, James Gunn is writing it right now. It sounds like he's not writing it quite as fast, or it's not going to be done quite as early as, say, the Batman Brave and the Bold script is going to be done. So there might actually be a legit Batman movie that comes out before this in the DCU, in addition to Robert Pattinson's Batman 2. That whole comment of David Corenswet joking about wanting to be in the Batman, like Batman, 1, 2, 3, I really want to be in that movie. A lot of questions. Was he talking about Batman Brave and the Bold? Because that is a DCU movie, it's supposed to be canon to the Superman movie. Or was he actually talking about Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson's Batman 2? Because there's been all the questions about that, like if it's going to be a couple years before those movies come out, both Brave and the Bold and the Batman 2 with Robert Pattinson, are they actually going to backtrack and just make Robert Pattinson the Batman of the DCU? If you take James Gunn and Matt Reeves at their words, both of them separately have said right now that is not the plan. Like Matt Reeves has said many times, he doesn't want to deal with any of the crossover characters or any of the other world building that's happening in the rest of this version of Earth in the DCU.
Interesting. No.
He just wants to tell Batman stories in Gotham City, and that's it. Like, not deal with any of the things that's happening outside of Gotham. So if you haven't seen his social media, James Gunn regularly will respond to people's questions about DCU movies and Batman, Superman-related stuff. They just ask him all kinds of questions, and he just seems like he's on social media all the time. As healthy as that probably is not. One of the actual questions he was asked is what's going to happen if there are two different versions of Batman running around on screen at the same time. And the way he explained it is that if he does wind up casting a completely different Batman for Brave and the Bold, and there's a Justice League crossover one that exists alongside Robert Pattinson Batman, what they're currently planning on doing is just not releasing two different Batman movies competing in the same year, and that's it. So the Batman 2 is currently supposed to come out in October 2027. That would mean Batman Brave and the Bold wouldn't come out until 2028. Based on the progression right now, at the end of the Superman movie, Supergirl shows up to pick up Krypto. She's still drunk. That was a teaser for the Supergirl movie based on the Woman of Tomorrow comic book, where she goes to another system with a red sun, where she's capable of getting drunk because of the way their powers work. He had joked about that with the number 4 robot when she crashed into the Fortress of Solitude, complaining about the entrance. During the actual Woman of Tomorrow comic book, it actually begins with her celebrating her 21st birthday, and that's why she's getting drunk at a bar in a different part of the galaxy with a red sun where she can get drunk. Probably the other big teaser that they have for that is Jason Momoa coming back as Lobo during the movie. He was not in the original comic book, Woman of Tomorrow, that they're actually basing this on. They're basically slotting him in, and it sounds like the main villain will hire him instead of just random mercenaries because he's so effective against Kryptonians. He's been one of the characters in the past that they've shown has gone toe-to-toe with Superman. It is totally possible that he also shows up in this super family movie, Superman 2, whatever they wind up calling it, whatever the subtitle is. But it actually sounds like what's going to happen is after her movie, she returns to Earth because they did cast human parents for her. It sounds like they're going to be human parents. They didn't clarify that. They could be her parents from Argo City, but it sounds more like human parents. She's meant to live on Earth the same way that Superman does. Like during the events of the Superman movie, she just happens to be off-world getting drunk on another system. That's why she's not around during the events of the Superman movie. So it just sounds like she defeats the villain of her movie, then makes her way back to planet Earth with Krypto, and then a little while after that, you have a couple other DC movies. Then all of a sudden, Brainiac shows up on planet Earth to bottle it up. There are also a lot of different plot threads from the Superman movie that they can pick up and tie to Brainiac in the future. Like there's the whole Ultraman Bizarro twist that they leave the character going into the black hole where they're like, maybe he could turn into a version of Bizarro, but we'll follow up on that in a future movie. There are multiple moments like that along the way that they can actually tease Brainiac picking up on. Like he could pick up some of the signals coming from Earth and that could alert him to come and check out what's going on.
The Kryptonians are incapacitated. Complete the extraction.
Part of the idea in the Superman Brainiac storyline, part of the reason why he wants to bottle up Metropolis and all these other places, especially with Superman, and put him in the collection, is because he is one of the last of his kind with Supergirl. So he's like, we need to protect you. Let's put you in this bottled up place here. I'll just keep you as part of my museum. So part of the idea with the Brainiac character is that he doesn't think of himself as a villain. He thinks of himself as a scientist going around studying and protecting things that are like the last of their kind. Superman and Supergirl would be perfect for a story like that. As far as we know, there's been no actual casting for Brainiac in the DCU, so let me know who you want to actually play him. There would also probably be more crossover characters like Justice Gang characters coming back for this Super Family crossover movie. If they're going to do Brainiac as a big villain, it would make sense that you include more of the big metahuman heroes. Yet another opportunity for James Gunn to bring his friends back in movies and give them awful haircuts again. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. James Gunn is supposed to do a commentary for the Superman movie, and they're releasing that on home video in the next couple of days. If he reveals any more details or really cool behind-the-scenes Easter eggs, I will do a video for that too. Way over in the Marvel universe, Ryan Reynolds was just teasing Deadpool in Avengers Doomsday. Click here for that, and click here for all my other Spider-Man Brand New Day videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.